While newlyweds are often full of snuggles, cuddles, and lots of intimacy, most parents will tell you that after babies are born, everything changes. Couples often lose touch with that sexual spark and attraction between them. I'm Dr. Nick Karras, a sexologist, and today we're talking all about spicing up your marriage after kids. This is Parent Savers, episode 91.
Faster than a speeding toddler.
Sit still for just a minute.
Can soothe boo-boos with a gentle kiss.
Would you get down from there?
Able to clean poopy bottoms in a single swipe.
Oh, what did you eat?
Turning frazzled mommies and daddies into procreators of peace and harmony.
Ah, quit touching me.
It's Parent Savers, empowering new parents everywhere.
Welcome back, everybody, to Parent Savers. We're broadcasting as usual from the Birth Education Center of San Diego. Parent Savers is your weekly online on-the-go support group for parents from the newborn years to kindergarten. I'm your host, John O'Reilly. Thanks again to all of our loyal listeners who join us week in and week out. And thanks also to those of you who are listening for the first time. As you may or may not know, you can join our Parent Savers Club and receive access to special bonus content after each new show, plus special giveaways and discounts from time to time. And if you haven't already, please make sure to download the free Parent Savers app available in the Android and iTunes marketplace, and you can automatically have access to all the great parenting advice and conversation we have on Parent Savers every week. Let's start this conversation by meeting everyone who's joining us in the room, and we have a very full room today. I'll start with myself. I'm John O'Reilly, just about to turn 40 years old in March, coming up on 40, and three boys, a 7-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old.
We're Tony and Elisa DiLorenzo. We have two kids. We have an 11-year-old son and an 8-year-old daughter, and we are co-hosts of the top-rated marriage podcast in iTunes, One Extraordinary Marriage.
Nice. Woo-hoo. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, I'm MJ Fisher, 37, yes. And I'm a stay-at-home mom to my son who's 2.5 years old. And besides that, I actually am the producer of the other podcast, well, one of the four that we have here on the Boop Group.
I'm Suchi Eggleton, and I am a half stay-at-home mom. I work part-time as a college instructor, but my daughter is almost 4 years old. And this is my first time.
Nice. Welcome. I like that, too. I'm at least a half stay-at-home dad, too, despite the other.
Well, and I'm Erin Esteves, otherwise known as OG Mamacita, the officially geriatric Mamacita. I am 43 going on 44, and I have a 2-year-old at home with whom I stay every single day. I love, but cuckoo.
And I'm Dr. Nick Karras, the sexologist, and I'm also a father. I'm 62, and my son is now 40.
Nice. All right, well, thanks for joining us, everyone. Before we jump into what's sure to be an exciting conversation, we're going to take a look at an app. We do this from time to time on Parent Savers. We look at apps that are just released or maybe have been out for a bit and look at them, talk about them, and tell you whether or not it's recommended for you to check out. And so today's app is it Ducky Deck?
Ducky Deck.
Ducky Deck Family Photo. And it is a cute little app. Ducky Deck's actually a series of different apps. There's different Ducky Deck apps. I guess that's kind of the brand. And in the Family Photo app, it's really kind of a face creation app, and there's no goals or end result other than make a cute family photo. But these are the kind of games that I really like for my young kids to play. And I messed around with it with our 4-year-old and our so he's still 6. He's about to turn 7. I said 7 at the beginning. Sorry for the confusion, but nobody really cares. So mess around with them, and they love this type of game. And I like them playing this type of game, too, where there's no necessarily goal or pressure. They're just kind of creating a face.
Right.
And there's all sorts of funny options to do hair. It starts out with a randomly generated character. You can change the hair, the eyes, the mouth, the outfit, the hat, if they want to have a mustache. And overall, they really liked it and had a good time because they really like playing with this kind of app.
Yeah, I think this app is adorable. We were talking earlier about apps or games that may have an end function or a reason. And I think that you could say that this is not only time consuming, which sometimes can be really great, but also educational because, like my 2-year-old, I can say nose, nariz, and he can try out all the different noses. And so in that sense, it's really fun, and I'm giving it a thumbs up.
I think that always when we talk about apps, there's the big debate. There's some parents who just don't want their kids playing apps no matter what. There's some who probably take it a little bit too far on the pendulum. I think it's a great app for kids to get engaged in. Could be a time-wasting app. I'm not sure how educational it is. I think like if done the right way with parents engaging with them, I think they'll learn about parts of the face. But there's also no output. There's actually no way to save the pictures to your camera roll either, and so that's maybe a little bit of a disappointment.
Well, I was thinking it's the same thing as, I mean, it's obviously the digital format of the Mr. Potato Head. So how educational is that?
Like that, right?
I mean,
it also reminds me of the little paper
it
dolls.
is, but
well, and I was thinking color forms. Like so I didn't say my age at the beginning. I'm 39, and so I just dated myself bringing up color forms. But you were just mixing and matching all of those different things to make different faces. And so while it's not, you don't have the output, there's just the education of let me play with something different and see what that unlocks in my own creativity.
Right.
Yeah, so I would definitely give this a thumbs up. It's not, if somebody was thinking about getting an iPad or an iPhone or an Android, they have this for Android as well. I wouldn't say, oh, check out this is the cool things that you can do on your phone. I think that if you're comfortable with playing apps, then this is another great one. I don't think that this is a groundbreaking example of how awesome apps are for kids, but I would definitely give it a thumbs up, and it's totally added to our repertoire, and I know my kids are going to love it.
I had a question about that app since you guys have already sort of played around with it. Are you able to put a mouth as an eye?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, that's a good question. And so it's not like, so it's I guess it's different.
Just kind of adds the
in that way.
creativity.
This is more that you can switch the mouth.
Oh, okay.
And you can switch the eyes.
So we're prescribed
but
to
they're
just eyes are only eyes and noses are only, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can put a goatee or a mustache on a girl. That's
Okay,
kind of cool.
all right.
Yeah. You could put earrings on guys.
Yeah, I like that because like my son has a doll and he loves it, and I want to foster that to not make it like you need to wear blue and play with trucks. So
yeah, it's totally very gender neutral. I mean, we were saying when we were looking at some of the pictures that they all kind of resemble guys, but there's definitely female flair that can be mixed in as well. To make them all just kind of cute people with different funny eyes and mustaches.
And I think it's neat because for example, I have a niece who had not seen anybody that was different from us until she was about 4. So she had never seen an African American until she was 4. And when she saw the first African American, she was kind of startled. So I think this is great because it's a good talking point. You can show how people are different. But essentially we're all made of the same thing. Everybody's got eyes and noses.
All right, so I think the Parent Savers verdict is a thumbs up. Definitely check it out. The Ducky Deck and Friends family photos, and we'll have a link to it on our website. All right, it's time to jump into today's topic, which is spicing up your marriage after kids. Today we're talking with Dr. Nick Karras. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Let's start hearing a little about yourself. I mean, for starters, what is a sexologist?
A sexologist is a person who studies what people do sexually and, equally important, how they feel about it.
Okay. And then you kind of help people. Is fixing the wrong word?
Yeah, because we don't fix. We provide information. We feel that everybody knows who they are sexually, and we just provide the information and we give permission to explore that aspect.
So what are some common issues you see with parents, right? Because babies change everything, including a lot of the sexual relationships that couples may have.
Everything changes when you have the intimacy mainly. And
so intimacy, like you see parents complaining that they're not having sex frequently enough, or just or is it on a level that they're not holding hands as much, or?
It has to take on a whole new form. The intimacy is usually more sexual at the beginning of a relationship, and it's more erotic. When a child appears, the whole role of a parent changes. It's more of a nurturing thing. It's more of a provider, and it's hard to bring those two together. You have to reinvent yourself sexually and what that means.
That actually would bring us to one of the questions that I got on Facebook. Was by Anonymous. No surprise there. But he was basically saying that after the child was born, his wife was no longer sexually interested in him because she felt like her body had to go to the child. She was exclusively breastfeeding and she did not feel sexual anymore. And he was wondering how he could, if he could, help her transition back to a sexual being.
Well, I mean, Tony and I have 2 kids, and there was definitely a phase in my life. I did breastfeed both children, and I remember those early days when you just feel like it's all going to the baby. And one of the things that Tony started doing, Tony was just very patient. So there wasn't this, with the first child, he was like, okay, let's jump back in the saddle. Child number 2, we waited a little longer, but it was the telling me that I was attractive. it was, a lot of the verbal cues that I got from him, instead of just being like, okay, your body's mine, let's make this happen. And I think that's what a lot of husbands can do for their wives, is give them verbal encouragement, because let's face it, after we've carried a baby for 9 months and we are all stretched and our breasts are doing all kinds of stuff with milk production, we might not feel sexual. But to hear that from our husbands, that they still desire us and are in love with who we are, that's a huge gift that a man can give his wife.
Yeah, and I think it's very true. The bonding that takes place between a mother and a child, it's producing that oxytocin that you used to get with your partner. And it's not wrong. It's empowering. The thing is, let's not lose the link between the couple also. And that's why you got to redefine intimacy, just holding hands, laying together and being close, so that you're also doing that. Because it's just as hard on the man, because now he's a provider. I mean, for a lot of men, it's a big thing. I mean, you've taken on a role of a child, and that's changing the way you think. And then to sexualize and to look at the mother of this beautiful child and what she went through, it's a difficult thing. So he's trying to regroup and rethink how to do that.
Yeah, and I gotta agree with Dr. Nick on the changes that do happen, and from that time when you first meet to the time of walking down the aisle, being sexually intimate in your marriage, and now a child comes, there's a big change that happens. And one thing I think many of us forget in marriages, that emotional intimacy is very, very important. That connection we have when we communicate. Well, yes, your wife just had the child, but communicate with her. Find out what the changes are. You can see them, but ask her. Because what we find out often when we talk on our podcast and we hear from our listeners is that emotional intimacy is what sparks the sexual intimacy.
Yeah. And I think, there's this instinct where on some level you may want everything to stay the same, like when you met or when you got married or like when you got engaged, but from if you take a step back, of course it's going to evolve, and of course things are going to evolve and things aren't going to be the same. And I think that you have to work hard to discover and make it evolve, I guess, the way that works for you guys. You guys can control the evolution to some extent.
Yeah, exactly. And the same thing happens with couples who don't have children. Mm-hmm. After a period of time, you have to reinvent what sexuality looks like and what intimacy looks like. I think it's wonderful to have the child because it forces you to do it. And you've got this third person in the room, third person.
When we had our baby, we really got to know each other on a different level, and so many because we did talk about how we wanted to parent, but it got to a different level once we had him, because now he was here, and
right.
and of course, once they're a newborn, you're not talking about how you're going to parent them like later on exactly, but definitely just talking and getting to know each other in a different sense. And for my husband and I, even just rubbing your hand on someone's back, just that physical connection throughout the day, that gets you to think like, that you still have this husband here, you still have this relationship, and you do need to keep that going and keep it growing along with, having the baby. So it's definitely like little things, and definitely just talking and communicating is so huge, and it doesn't take a lot. It really can be just like not, small words, or you could, have hours of conversation if you have time. But definitely it's a whole new world.
Well, I tell my husband, I told him more frequently when the baby was just born, it's like, look, you are this kid's dad. You will always be his dad. You don't always have to be my husband. And I know it sounds really harsh, but it's the reality. We have to work at this, because if we don't choose to stay spouses to one another, then that disintegrates everything. So it's a choice. You have to make that conscious effort to try, or why bother, as far as I'm concerned.
It's very true. And there's the energetic of that. Children feel energy more so than anything. And when the parents are loving and they're bonding, they understand that. I grew up in a very large family. There were 8 of us. I don't know how my mother did it. And during the day, my mother she'd slip into depression. I could tell she had so much going on. My dad would come home and he would grab her and lock lips with her and throw a thing. We knew that we were safe. That meant something to us on a level. We knew that we could be calm. That is, when we saw them together. And I think to give self-permission to be intimate with your partner. It's a gift to the children also.
Big time. The kids are watching from as soon as, I mean, even before, like my son would react to my husband's voice in
utero.
in the womb. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, it's just huge to show your kids, and they are watching. They are totally watching. I don't care how old they are, but they feel it, they see it, they know.
And they mimic.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say the funny thing with that is that our kids are a little bit older. We've got the 11 and the 8-year-old, and we choose to be affectionate in front of them, and in front of their friends. If somebody's over, it's not unusual for Tony to give me a kiss or us to give a hug, and we didn't realize how unusual that was until some of their friends would be over, and they're like, what are your parents doing? Looking at one of our kids like, what are your parents doing? And why?
Oh my God.
Why are they doing that in front of us? And we would look at them and use that as a teaching point to say, it's okay for mommies and daddies to hug and kiss each other. And we realize then, and we share this with our audience too, is that it's a legacy that you're giving to your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren, showing them that strong bond, showing them that you still desire each other, and that this is the primary relationship. Yeah. In the family unit, because exactly like you said, if mom and dad are strong and are investing in that, that's going to play out for the children. Yep. The children will always know where they fit inside that framework.
And there's not a lot of examples in media and public that show that. That is our responsibility as a parent to give that gift.
Yeah, I was going to say that we do the same thing, especially if there's any bit of tension going on, we make an extra effort to at least publicly, and in a lot of ways, like, it actually helps sort of smooth things over. Right. When you're making that effort to be extra affectionate, just so she can see us, knowing that whatever little tiff or whatever just occurred or something, that it's still okay, and it actually, it kind of makes things it's any little tension, It's actually easier to get over any sort of argument now than it was before the baby.
Right.
But I guess here's the thing, and this is all we're having a conversation about this, and so it's awesome that we're all open and feeling talking about it. But even that question was framed anonymously,
right?
And I think that this isn't necessarily a conversation that's easy to have or that people will easily have. And so it's great that for our listeners, and it's really cool for us to be in this room and be able to just be open and honest about the intimacy. But how can people get to this point or able to have the conversations? Because it's something that's not talked about.
No, definitely. They have to see the value in it.
Yeah.
They have to make that decision that that's something important. And I think if we all think back to when we were little, there were times when we saw mom and dad embrace, and it had an effect on us. It calmed us. It felt good. Mm-hmm. And just tell us that and remind ourselves of that.
Yeah. And so maybe grab a glass of wine or beer with your spouse and, after the kids are asleep, talk about it and just, connect in a level talking about it that's not trying to, that's listening to your partner. And also, would you say that's good?
I think there's a level of introspection and vulnerability that a lot of people aren't comfortable with. For example, my mom died when I was very young, so I never had that growing up where I could see my parents interact. I didn't get that. So for me, it was something that I had to ask myself, how do I make sure my son gets this? So I have to look at myself, and then I have to talk to my husband about, you need to help me be more physically, open and affectionate, because I never learned that. So, and that's why I'm saying there's a vulnerability and an introspection where some people, it's tough. It's tough.
Oh, definitely. And then when the children grow up and go through puberty, it's very complicated for them because they don't know what this urge and what this thing is going on, and they don't know how to tie it to intimacy and the desire for that. And when the parents show that, it just gives another tool for them to make, transitioning into adult life a lot easier.
There's a lot of nodding going on that side of the table.
Well, my thing goes back to the questions. Mm-hmm. What are those? Because you asked, how do you ask? Mm-hmm. Well, what we find often is couples don't know what questions to ask. Yeah.
Right.
They get stuck. And so there are numerous books out there that folks can pick up on Amazon search. On our site, oneextraordinarymarriage.com, we have 77 questions to get the conversation started.
Right. Oh, cool.
Because what we found is just giving folks the help to just look at a sheet of paper and go, okay, this is the question we're going to ask and answer today. And sometimes it might be 5 minutes. Sometimes it might be 20 or 30. I don't know. It just depends on where you guys are at. But we've seen many couples do this, and it's helped them where they just take one question a day for 77 days, and it starts allowing that free flow. And we talk about all forms of intimacy, one being sexual, and that dives in deeper. So that way they can sit there, and hopefully by the time they get to there, they're feeling more vulnerable, open. They're taking off those masks, and so that they can really dig in deep. Because that's the biggest thing, to be sexually intimate, especially after kids. And if you're a husband and you've been in the delivery room, there's a whole nother thing that happens.
We even remember it more than they do, like with hormones.
Sure.
Like there's aspects of, there's some images in my brain.
Lisa did epidurals both times, so she was, la la land. But I'm sitting there with the doctor, and I'm thinking, whoa, this is way different than I recognize it from when we're being intimate with each other. So
Transformers.
Transformers for guys. I mean, there's a mental issue that even they and we have to overcome and realize that. Wow, but.
Well, for example, my husband and I talked about that because I initially was like, oh, I want a mirror. I want to see everything. This is fantastic. And then people started putting things into my head, and I was like, oh, do I want him down south? I don't know. What if it's really going to mess things up by how he views me after this? Do I really want him to see that? And so we talked about it, and he was like, there is no way you're keeping me away from down south.
Right.
Well, your husband's he's an artist. Yeah. He's a visual person. Of course he's going to want to know exactly what it looks like.
And it's funny because in the end I was like, no mirror. I don't want to know and see anything. And fortunately he says that it only confirmed or concreted his love for me.
Yeah.
But for some people, it's not like that.
True. Everyone's different. But it seems like a lot of these issues that we're talking about are coming from this projection of the spouse onto what they think the other person is going to think. Like either from the woman thinking that, oh, he's not going to want me, my body's not good enough. Or the husband thinking, oh, she's going to think I'm a horrible person if I say I want to have sexual relationship with her. Like
that's why communicating is so
it
key.
Is.
Like
it ends
like,
those assumptions.
Yeah, and then once you start asking those questions and you start communicating, then you start feeling more comfortable. Then that's the different level of the marriage after kids too that you can reach. Like where I think my husband and I, after a certain point in time, like we really didn't know, like, what are your fantasies? Like we started asking things like that, and you don't have these conversations with just anybody. This is just between him and I. So that was intimate too, because no one else is going to know this but him and I. Yeah. So.
And us, if you tell us.
Right? Oh, yeah. If I tell you guys.
and the entire audience.
A few listeners.
Let's take a quick break right here. And when we get back, we'll talk about what happens if communication doesn't work, though. I mean, communication is key, but what if what you're communicating about doesn't quite jibe together? So we'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody, to Parent Savers. Today we're talking about spicing up your marriage after kids with Dr. Nick Karras, or at the very least, redefining intimacy in your marriage after kids. Could be a better way to put it. So what happens if the communication doesn't really work? Like, let's say we talk and there's a big mismatch in expectations over, frequency that we'd like to have intercourse, for example.
I think the biggest problem most people do is they let it go. They push it down the road to the next day and to the next day. And the longer you go without it, the longer it's harder to start it back up. And they're going to need help at some point. They're going to need to talk. Start talking with your friends. Start talking with other people. Be honest. Like you said earlier, the biggest thing is we don't talk to one another about sexuality. We put on, especially men, we put on that, oh yeah, everything's fine, everything's fine. And it's not fine. We're missing it.
Oh, I agree 100%. And one of the big things that Elise and I have done for 4 years now is called the intimacy lifestyle, where we have set up that we do have sex 2 times a week. And the way we've set it up is that, because one of the big things that we found in our marriage, especially even after kids, was my approach and then being rejected.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And this is big for men, because now you're being rejected time and time again, which leads to not going to ask anymore. So the duration now extends out to months. And now you're really scared as a guy to even ask because you're going to be rejected. So the intimacy lifestyle, the way we set it up is that there are 3 days a week that I initiate, which are Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday.
That you have the option to initiate. Because there are some women sitting right now that just are like, I think I'm going to turn this off because if my husband hears this.
Very true.
I have the option to initiate on Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday.
Please, option, like he never doesn't initiate.
Well, that's just it. He's going to pick one of those 3 days.
Oh, gotcha.
As I've gotten older too, and with kids, I will say, as a guy, yeah, you get tired. There are definitely times when I'm just like, man, between business and kids and doing everything else. I mean, yeah, there are definitely times that I would probably, at my stage in life, that I would forget. So I do initiate, and then on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Elisa has the option to initiate on one of those days. And that allows us to keep
There's
that.
a lot of
Saturday
freedom
and
there.
Saturday
you're
is
drunk
bonus
and
day.
anything can
Saturday's a
happen.
bonus day.
Saturday's a bonus day if
a
you make it
wild
happen
card
or
day.
not. Yeah.
I thought
That's
it was
interesting, though.
like the Sabbath, like nothing on Saturday.
It can be, but the thing with that is that it does keep that spark there because I don't know, like what days he's going to initiate. Although if we get to Friday and he hasn't, chances are probably pretty good that it's coming. But you just look at the calendar, you're like, okay, we haven't. But the flip side of that is that we take turns initiating sex, because in our relationship, and I'm sure for a lot of listeners, initiating is traditionally one-sided, either the male or the female, whoever has the higher sex drive. And so by us choosing to do it this way, and we talked about it, it wasn't like this just kind of, whoop, let's do this. It allowed us to say, okay, what do we want our sex life to look like? And that's one of those, I'm sure, Dr. Nick, that's one of those questions you need to ask. What is it going to look like?
Exactly. And I like your idea of the permission, because I think the biggest thing is we feel, especially men, I felt terribly guilty. I mean, I would look at my wife and she's tired and we've got this thing and this child that's taken all this time. And I know I felt a burden financially and work and all the responsibility. I felt wrong wanting to be sexual. I kind of felt guilty about that. And allowing yourself to say that, okay, we need that. We need to reconnect once in a while and do this. And there's nothing the matter with having desire. Now let's figure out how to make it happen.
Absolutely. And, we have listeners all around the world that have, adapted that to fit their marriage. Because frequency, might be, they might change frequency. They might change, different variables in there. But what they've decided is that having that sexual intimacy in their marriage matters to them.
It's strange because on some level, my reaction to that is, putting structure into your sex life just seems like it doesn't fit, right? It's supposed to be the spontaneous thing, but obviously that's a ridiculous notion, and that's maybe what parents need. And maybe, like, if so, in my example, I would need to get over that. Like, well, it's not going to happen without structure, so get rid of this ideal.
Anything that you value and you really want to have happen, it's going to take structure.
Yeah.
If you want to save future to buy a house, or
it's not going to just
you want to get
happen.
an education, or you need to set time aside to be a spiritual person. You need to set time aside. You have to put a priority on
and
it.
when you have kids, it's hard. I mean, we try to be spontaneous, but it is hard. I mean, like when my son started napping by himself, we would run in the living room, and we don't know how much time we're going to have.
Exactly.
So it was like that was our spontaneity. But I really like the stuff that you guys brought up, because my husband, I think he doesn't like to initiate because he is afraid of the reaction, but I'm actually wanting him to initiate. And so we have that kind of back and forth every now and then, and he does see that I'm tired and this and that. But I even said to him, like, I fell asleep on him last night, and I said, why didn't you wake me up? Just wake me up. And he's like, I tried, but you were sleeping so soundly. And I'm like, but just shake me. I don't know, because I feel bad for him, that I am falling asleep on him, and but I like that your idea is there. I think I'm going to have to use them.
Well, please do. And one of the other things that we've heard from couples in our audience is that they'll have the conversation, especially moms of young children will say, okay, if you let me know by like such and such a time, if you let me know by 9 o'clock or by 10 o'clock, I'm trying to figure out what new mom is staying up till 10 o'clock. But there are a few in our audience. But we've had women that have told us, my husband will message me middle of the day, like, tonight's the night. And she said to him, anytime before you let me know before 9 o'clock, I'll be ready.
Yeah. That's
because
good.
even if you get that text message during the day or that phone call that says, hey, honey, I'm thinking about it, today, that allows you, I think, as a mom to mentally prepare to say, okay, maybe we don't need to do a bath tonight. We'll do a little washcloth wipe down for the kids and that type of thing, because my energy is going to go towards my husband. And so having that foresight to say, okay, this is what's on the calendar.
Yep.
And giving it, like you were talking the spontaneity question, and I often tease people, I'm like, so how's that spontaneity?
Yeah, exactly.
Are you really having as much spontaneous sex as you would like?
Exactly.
That whole idea of why would you, it's over, I know it sounds really weird, but it's like over romanticizing something that is very necessary and almost practical.
That's a great point.
Totally.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
I mean,
totally. That. Yeah.
Yeah, very good point.
Hollywood does lead us to believe that you walk into a room and throw back the bed and there are the rose petals, and rose petals happen, I think, probably twice in our marriage.
Bearskin rug.
But, yeah, Tony's got this fantasy of a bearskin rug, so there's one of the fantasies that comes out. There you go. But in the real world, there aren't rose petals all the time, and your hair isn't always perfect. And
sex on the beach is really not
Sounds
that
like
great
a horrible
idea.
idea.
Yeah. I mean, there's just nothing else to say about that except it's not a good idea.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times for women also, most of the time, when no means no, it's no. If you're not in the mood and it's not going to work for you. But if you're on the fence and you just as soon fall asleep, most of the studies have proven that the woman would have said, no, I'd just rather roll over. But afterwards, she'll usually say, I'm glad I did. And so give yourself permission to, even if it's, go there sometimes, even though you don't want to. It's usually very rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
Well, thanks so much for joining us, Dr. Karras, and thanks to everyone in the studio, too, and thanks for listening. For more information about today's topic or for more information about any of our panelists, visit the episode page on our website. This conversation will continue for members of our Parent Savers Club after the show. We'll talk a little more about phototherapy, just what that is and what that means. For more information about the Parent Savers Club, you can visit our website, parentsavers.com. Before we wrap up today's show, here's blogger David Vienna sharing the realities of parenting from his blog, The Daddy Complex.
Hi, Parent Savers. This is The Daddy Complex. I'm David Vienna, father of twin boys, and if my experience has taught me anything about parenting, it's that I know nothing about parenting. While we were potty training our boys, my wife had to go on a business trip. She was gone for 3 nights, and for each of those nights, I had to handle poop. To my boys' credit, one of those nights it was dog poop. When you're expecting a baby, people will joke with or warn you about how messy babies and toddlers are. No matter what you've heard or how detailed those stories are, it does not provide an accurate picture of just how much human feces you will be forced to touch. Firstly, newborn's poop is very fluid. This opens up a world of opportunities for fecal matter to find its way into places other than the diaper, especially if you experience what I dubbed the poo fountain. By the way, if you see your newborn making his or her poop face, don't rush over and change the diaper right away. The wee one might not be done, and your wall could end up looking like a Jackson Pollock painting. When your baby reaches toddlerhood, it gets more challenging. You'll experience daily poop accidents during potty training, and accidents don't just manifest as dirty undies. Poop will appear in hallways and on furniture and slip from pant legs at the most inopportune time. Not that there's really an opportune time for a turd to roll out from a pant leg. Even after your child is technically potty trained, you're not done. Once our boys knew how and when to use the potty, they still hadn't mastered the post-poop cleanup. I knew this was an issue, but really discovered how much of an issue one night when my son Boone climbed up on my lap and showed off a long brown smear on his leg. The worst part, however, it wasn't his smear. Let me preface that, like me, my boys like to watch TV in the nude. It seems that Wyatt left mid-show and deposited a monstrous bowel movement in the potty. He had trouble getting the toilet paper off the roll, so he just gave a perfunctory wipe with a shred of tissue and returned to the couch to cuddle with his nude brother. They both ended up with so many smears of poop on them they looked like they were members of the world's smelliest Indian tribe, and yes, the couch suffered some collateral damage. If I haven't made it clear, let me reiterate. You will handle a soul-crippling amount of poop. There's no way around it. So invest in some gloves if you think it might help. It won't. And work on controlling your gag reflex. You can't. Often, when I was cleaning up a pile, I actually had to go to my happy place. I call it the Island of Purell. Check out more of my terrible advice at thedaddycomplex.com, the Huffington Post, or on Twitter at thedaddycomplex. You can also view episodes of Fighting with Babies, my public web series for parents, at thedaddycomplex.com/FWB. And be sure to keep listening to Parent Savers for more fatherly tips.
That wraps up today's episode of Parent Savers. We appreciate you listening. Don't forget to check out our sister shows, Preggy Pals for expecting parents, the Boob Groups for moms who breastfeed their babies, and Twin Talks for parents of multiples. Next week, we'll be talking about another great topic of interest to parents of newborns to kindergartners everywhere. Thanks for joining us. This is Parent Savers, empowering new parents.
This has been a New Mommy Media production. The information and material contained in this episode are presented for educational purposes only. Statements and opinions expressed in this episode are not necessarily those of New Mommy Media and should not be considered facts. While such information and materials are believed to be accurate, it is not intended to replace or substitute for professional medical advice or care, and should not be used for diagnosing or treating healthcare problem or disease or prescribing any medication. If you have questions or concerns regarding your physical or mental health or the health of your baby, please seek assistance from a qualified healthcare provider.
Hey mamas, don't forget to check out Mighty Moms. It's our online community built for new moms just like you. Not only can you connect with other moms, but you can also join us backstage for special mom-only online events. And you'll also be notified when we're recording so you can join us as a special guest. Visit our website, newmommymedia.com, and click on the Mighty Moms banner. It's free. That's newmommymedia.com. See you there.